I'm Sarah, otherwise known as Yarnmugs on Instagram and Ravelry. Welcome to my 4th podcast. Today is the 10th of February 2020, and this is my podcast about my knitting, my crochet, and in my future, sewing. I'll talk about sewing a bit later. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone that has watched my previous videos, who's given me a thumbs up, and who's subscribed and also left such lovely comments. I'm still a bit blown away by the fact that anyone's watching me, let alone taking the time to leave me lovely comments and messages and asking me questions, so thank you so much. I'm playing with my hand because I just realised my finger is bleeding. I don't know what I've done. I must have caught it on something. Sorry. I'm in my conservatory with my garden behind me. As you know, before, it's cold out here, so I've got 2 cups of tea and my shawl. But the sun is out and it looks gorgeous behind me, so I thought this is a perfect spot to film. Yesterday in the UK, we were all experiencing Storm Kira, which was everywhere over the UK. I don't live near any water, so there was no sort of flooding in my area, but the wind was really bad. There's lots of debris on the roads during the school run this morning, and fences down and things like that. Someone asked me actually, Joan, hi Joan, they wanted to know a little bit more about me, so I thought I'd just touch on that a little bit, or maybe I'll say it a bit later. Let's get on with the knitting maybe, and I'll talk about me a bit later. Okay, so on my last podcast I showed you some things that I was making, so I'll just give you a bit of an update on that. I was showing you my socks. Oh, again, I didn't bring the sock blocker. Never mind. You know what they look like. I am using West Yorkshire Spinners yarn in the Blue Tit colourway. I have finished 1 sock. This isn't really a pattern, it's just a plain vanilla sock, but I dip into previous patterns where I found I really like techniques and tips. So I have done 15 rows of 2x2 twisted rib. I then do 30 rows for the leg. I then use Vanilla Latte sock pattern for the heel flap, the heel turn and the gusset. And then once I'm back to the original stitch count, I then do 34 rounds for the foot, and then I go back to the Vanilla Latte sock pattern for the wedge decrease. I've tried lots of different toes, and my feet fit this sort of shape better, where you decrease at either side. I've tried the ones that sort of scooch up at the top and you pull them tight, but I have bunions, so my feet are a bit wider here, so this fits me perfect. And I've got to say, I'm very good at pointing out all the things that go wrong with my projects, but this sock I think is perfect. Another excuse me, another really good tip that I learned from another sock pattern, which I think was Kay Jones, one of Kay Jones' patterns, one of her Beatrix Potter patterns. She says that when you pick up your stitches to start doing your gusset decreases, when you do that first round after, she suggests that you pick those picked up stitches through the back loop and it twists it a bit, and I find that it's just perfect. It's just no gaping, there's no hole at the corner. Actually, this is the other side. You know, that's not even a hole, it's just like you can see there, look, a bit looser, but you know, I'm really pleased with them. the yarn was lovely to use, really nice. So yeah, that's the Blue Tit colourway. So that's one finished one, and then I've almost finished another one. So again, I've done the cuff, the leg, the heel flap, the heel turn, and I'm currently on the gusset decreases. So I should finish this tonight. Really, like I say, it doesn't take me long to make a sock, but these socks have taken me a while because I have been focusing on my jumper. I'll show you that in a minute. Oh, back to at the end of my toe, I always do a Kitchener stitch, and I love Kitchener. I think it's lovely and neat, and to help me, I've got one of these lovely little tools. Is it from Catrinkles? It's so cute and so handy, and just reminded me of that process of the pattern. So yeah, I always carry that. And my socks are knit on high sharps, 2.5mm with my 80cm cord. So yeah, ideally I would have had these finished, but never mind, they'll be finished tonight. And I haven't even planned what sock to do next, so that's exciting. I'll do that later. I'll go through my yarn and pick my next one. And again, they're all housed in this lovely little grey girl pyramid bag, which is just perfect for sock knitting. It's such a well-made bag as well. It's just lovely. I keep looking at it thinking, how has she made that? It's lovely. So that's that. Now on to the jumper. Sorry, my scarf. Oh, might as well say what I'm wearing. Here's my crochet. This is the only bit of crochet really for today's video, but I showed you this last time. This is my, what's it called? History of Bees shawl, which even though I didn't enjoy making it, I'm loving wearing it. And I also made another lovely little flower with the remaining yarn. And just to remind me of what that flower is, it's from Emma Potter. Oh, what's it? I'm sure it's just called Simple Spring Flower. What's it called? Pretty Spring Flower tutorial on YouTube. Potter and Bloom. Lovely Emma. So I've made a few of these. They're so quick and easy with a little button in the middle. It's a lovely little brooch. But I'll put this back on because it is chilly. Oh, I love this. It's such a perfect shape. I love that covering the front. Okay, so my jumper. I think last time I was not very far into it. Done some sort of shoulder raglan shaping, and now it's finished. Ready? Here it is. I'm going to stand up actually and show you a bit further away. Yeah. I love it. I wonder if I should put it on. No, I'll just show you it. So there's the lovely little raglan shaping with the garter cuffs and neckline and rib. Right, let me sit down and I'll chat about it. So this pattern, Trescao sweater from Anna, who is along Avec Anna, and it was a free pattern. It didn't call for stripes, but I added in a contrast stripe. So I used Rowan felted tweed, and it says it is a felted effect yarn made with merino wool and alpaca, but it's actually 50% wool, 25% alpaca and 25% viscose. And then the contrast creamy speckly yarn is Hedgerow yarns, and that's merino and nylon in the colour The Night Before Christmas. Now, I think last time when I was speaking to you, I didn't even know I was going to make a jumper with this yarn. So this is the Rowan felted tweed, and it's got all different speckles in it. And you can see there, it's quite hairy. When I was making it, the bits of red was everywhere. But it's fine, and it's lovely and squishy. little bit of a scratch, but I don't mind that. And then that's what I've got left of the 100 grams of the speckles. So I'm amazed I didn't really use all of this up. So I started off with 2 balls of this, 50 grams each. So I had 100 grams and 100 grams of that. I'd got down to separating for the sleeves to start the body, and I realised I needed to buy more yarn. So I bought some more, but it had a different dye lot. But in fact, I can't see any difference at all. The main issues I had when I was making this, and it's a lovely simple pattern, but naughtily I didn't do a gauge swatch, but I know that I'm tight, so I just went up a few needle sizes. I have used 4.5mm for the neck, the cuff and the hem, the rib at the bottom, and 5mm for everywhere else. It is quite a loose, you can sort of see there, and it is meant to have positive ease. So when I got to I think when I separated for the sleeves, I was managing the yarn because I wanted the cream speckly yarn to match on the sleeves as it had on the body, but I was really worried about running out of yarn. So at one point I stopped on the body and then started the sleeves, both similar times, so that I could make sure I had enough yarn for the stripes. In fact, I probably could have done a few more stripes because I did have enough of that yarn left. The other issue I had, not that that was an issue, it was easy, it was fine, but I was just trying to make sure I had enough. When I started to work on the sleeves, I just happily was knitting away, and then I realised when I look back at the pattern that I was meant to start the decreases after about 3 centimetres, and I'd got up to about 7 or 8 centimetres. So you can see there it's quite wide. So when I was working on it, I kept trying it on, thinking, oh, it's a bit wide. So I started the decreases and decreased a little bit quicker than she suggested. So when I was making it, I don't know if I said to you last time, I've knitted the whole of this jumper on a 60 centimetre cord. So I could never try it on. All the stitches fitted on there, but I could never put it over my head. So I was just putting my arm down the neck and sort of doing this, trying to work out. Yeah, so look, so my arm is there, so there's definitely quite a few inches or centimetres of big. But then it fits nicer down here. So again, I don't know how to rip back, so I just thought, oh, just go with it, it's fine, it's all learning. Another thing that I did wrong, when I was changing into the stripe yarn, I don't know why I did this. I think this is something I do in crochet. On a final stitch of the previous round, you change to the next colour, but doing this way, it made a bit of a jog. So after a little while, I realised, oh, I shouldn't do that, and all the others are completely straight. So, a little mistake, but never mind. And also, I didn't follow the pattern for how long to do it. I just knew that I didn't really want a cropped jump. I wanted it a bit longer. I wanted to make the use of all of the yarn. And in fact, I'd got right down to the rib section and I had to start a new ball. So that's a little bit frustrating, but never mind, I'll use that for something else. So you can see here, it just looks lovely and squidgy. Now, someone had left me a comment last time saying, how are you going to manage washing it without the red leaking into the cream? And I hadn't even thought about that. See, this is what I'm like, I don't really plan too much. Oh look, I've just found another little mistake on the cuff. I forgot to do the garter. Never mind. So what I did, because it was quite big when I finished, once I bound it off, because I didn't realise how it was going to fit, and once I bound it off it was quite boxy, quite square. So I put it in the washing machine on a 30-degree wool wash. And some of that wool wash, it was just sitting in there like it would if I just had, soaked it in a sink. But when I got it out, it had really stretched. I don't know if that's the alpaca. I've heard other people say that. And the sleeves were like, hanging way past my hand. So then I've heard other people say that they then put their knitted things in the dryer. So I did that. And every 5 minutes I went and checked. And it worked. In fact, it shrunk it a little bit. So but I don't know whether the same thing will happen next time I wash it. So I can choose. I don't know. I don't know if I've set it for life that it will always be this shape. I am going to show you it because I want to show you what it looks like. Actually, before I do that, I want to show you this. My sister a few years ago bought me some lovely name labels. Look at that. And I have never used them. And then I realised, oh no, I'm going to put them in my garments. Look at my rubbish sewing. Luckily, because this is sort of red, you can't see really any of the stitches. But I need to work out a way of how do I do this neater. But I think that's so cute. So I'm going to put them in my previous jumpers and cardigans that I've made. Right, let's show you this on. You can see, like I say, it's quite a big, loose fitting. Just get the neck right, and then I'm going to stand up and show you. Yeah, so it's quite loose, quite boxy, but in fact the sleeves, they don't feel too bad now. It's probably it's bigger here than it is on the sleeves. The sleeves fit. I like the neck. And I probably would wear something underneath it. Not that it's really itchy, but just because it's nice to have like a vest or a t-shirt underneath. But I love it. It feels cosy. Yeah, can you see it close enough? It's really nice. I like these. I love that shaping. And even though this jumper had taken me ages, I kept thinking when I was making it, God, I can't make too many jumpers this year because that's all I'll be doing. There's no time to make anything else. But as soon as I cast it off, I wanted to cast on another one. And I had all these ideas in my head about all the odds and ends or different sort of individual skeins of yarn that I've got and how I could make it a bit smaller. Because look, it's definitely big. But that's just because there's no shaping. It's just a square. I don't know if it's not very flattering or not, but it feels nice. I like it. I forgot to mention the needles that I use are these ones. I don't really know how to pronounce that. And these are birchwood. They are lovely. Don't know if anyone else is using these. But they're lovely. They're so smooth. They're like little pencils. I do think sometimes when I'm knitting, am I wearing them down? Like where you're rubbing them together. Oh, they're lovely. So I've been using them a lot. I don't use them for socks though because the cord is not particularly, it's alright, but it's not flexible enough I think for magic loop, but it's fine I did the sleeves, a part of the sleeves on magic loop, but the rest on just, on a circular. I'm going to keep this jumper on, it feels so nice. Oh, sorry, crashing around. Okay, and when I was making this jumper, it was so big and chunky, it didn't fit in any of my bags, and my lovely sister for Christmas bought me this. Proud to be a knitter. So I had the jumper in there, and she bought me a matching mug as well. It's cute. And this was I've got a whole load of these. I don't know where she got them from. I do often see other makers, they have little labels they put on their makes. So So I'm definitely gonna do that. Just need to improve my sewing skills. I live right near a train track, so you might hear trains going past as well. And we live under a flight path to Luton Airport, so you might see that as well, or hear that as well. I just get used to it. It's just become white noise to me. And when Joan was asking me to talk a bit more about myself, I didn't really know what to say. And you think, well, what do people want to know? I suppose I should just say that I live in a town about half an hour north of London. I've lived here all my life, and I live with my husband and our 12-year-old daughter Emily, and our cat and our hamster. You might see the cat. I often wonder if he's going to make an appearance, but he does sleep quite a lot in the day on Emily's bed, so maybe not. And as a job, I think I might have mentioned before, I'm a nurse. I've worked in the NHS since I was 18. I'm 49 this year, so I've done it for a long time. I've worked in the hospitals, I've worked in the community, and for the last 9 years I've been a health visitor. I don't know if in other countries they have health visitors, but here you have to be a nurse or a midwife first, and then you do a master's degree to become a specialist public health nurse, which sounds when you say specialist, it sounds like, it's fun, isn't it? I sort of minimise what I do sometimes, but it is quite a challenging job, and it involves working with families with children under the age of 5. So we see every single baby that is born and support people with parenting, and we monitor the growth and development of children, but there's lots of health promotion that we do as well, so lots of breastfeeding support, mental health support, and lots of mums experiencing depression and anxiety, but a large part of the job, and the sort of the most difficult part of the job, is we're involved with safeguarding children, where we work with families that may not be doing as good a job as we want with caring and loving their children, and that is the hardest bit, and my job is what causes me quite a lot of anxiety, and at the minute it's quite difficult, and when I feel like that, I just feel like I want to give it up. When you've done something for so long, or I don't know what else I'd be able to do apart from knit. So we've got half term coming up soon, so where the schools break up for a week, and I've got that week off, and I can't wait just to recharge my batteries and not have to be thinking or worrying about work and families. So Joan, I hope that helps. I hope that's the kind of thing you wanted to know. I suppose, it's just reminding you that we live in the UK. Probably can tell by my voice, and who I live with and what I do. But if you want to ask me any other questions, feel free. I might not answer them depending on what it is, but I didn't really know what else you wanted to know. Right, back to the knitting. So I've done my socks and my jumper. I then was asked by a lovely friend local to me, Helen from Woolly Chic, if I would try some of her new yarn. She's got her own little company, she sells yarn, but she started a Kickstarter campaign to launch a brand new yarn that's not available anywhere, and it's a mixture of Blueface Leicester and Tencel, which is a fibre obtained from wood pulp, and it creates this really soft, luxurious yarn. So I said, yes please, I'll try it, but I also made a pledge to her Kickstarter campaign, so I really wanted to help her out and really thought this is a fantastic yarn. I would urge you to look at Woolly Chic, and I'll put a link down below. because on her bio in her Instagram page, she's got a lovely video really describing the process and the yarn and why she wants it up and running. But here it is. So she provided me with an undyed yarn or skein and a purple. There is a little bit of a halo there, but it is very, very soft. And look at the kind of, I don't know if you can see that, sort of the twist on it. Oh yeah, look, you can see it there a little bit more. It's lovely. So I thought I would make a shawl, and I wanted to make a really simple shawl to really show off the stitch definition. So I've chose the Wick Shawl, which is by Helen Stewart from Curious Handmade. Let's have a drink. I can't believe how quick this drink gets cold in this conservatory. Okay, so here it is. Oh, I'm not very good at showing. Oh yeah, there you are. So it's a very simple shawl with some yarn overs along the edge to create those holes and a bit of increasing down the centre. But the actual, it's just knitting, so it's really lovely, a simple. And you can see how sort of soft and squidgy the yarn is. It reminds me a little bit, this pattern, of when you first learn to knit and you just make a scarf and you're knitting back and forth, because it's just those lovely ridges. It's lovely. Oh, it's very, very soft. So I don't know if anyone else has used Helen Stewart's patterns before, but you get every single row is written down with a percentage of how far you are into the project, and that's quite encouraging. Let me put it, oh dear, I've got it on 100cm cord, so it's quite, and I've put the progress creeper at the front just to remind me which is the front of the work, and it will just be a nice triangular shawl. Yeah, lovely. But no, the yarn is absolutely beautiful. I'd really recommend it. And her Kickstarter campaign has finished now, and she achieved her goal. So this yarn will be coming out. It will be being produced. And I think she got above and beyond the amount that she wanted to achieve. So she's hoping to get it produced in different weights. This is in fingering weight, but it is gorgeous. Helen, if you're watching, I love it. And can't wait for this to be a bit bigger to show it off, but it's lovely. I think it's going to be very drapey, and this particular pattern sort of makes it nice and stretchy. I like Helen Stewart's patterns, they're lovely. This pattern calls for 3 skeins, and there's a little bit of merging in between different colours, but like I say, I'm just going to stick with the two colours. It will be lovely. And I've got that in this little autumn bag. And just so you can see sort of that, there, it's called Heart Spun. That's lovely too, isn't it? Lovely, whatever that word is, my brain's not working. Oh, what's it called? Logo. Is that what that's what I'm trying to say, isn't it? Logo. The other day, my daughter plays football, and I was working on the T-bar, working as in volunteering on the T-bar, and I was cleaning up and getting a bin sorted, and I found a dustpan and brush, and could I remember what that was called? I had to sort of keep saying, what's that thing on the floor? I mean, my brain, or anyone else who is going through the menopause or post-menopausal like me, it's so frustrating when you just look such an idiot when you can't think of simple things. Luckily, my daughter knows exactly what I mean all the time, so I just have to say to her, you know what I mean, don't you? Oh, you've got to laugh. Right, let's put that back. So that's all the knitting, socks, jumper, shawl. Oh, I then want to talk to you about sewing. So I am in the process of being on a beginner's sewing course, and it is fantastic. I've had a sewing machine since I was 21. I'm now, like you say, nearly 49, and I've never touched it. I've always been too scared. So it looks absolutely brand new, even though it's, you know, nearly 30 years old. So I signed myself up to this 5-week sewing course, and at the end you get to make a cushion cover. I'll just show you. So when I went on the first week, we all got given a bag. So this is a local studio to me, the studio at number 30. The lovely Kay. She's got a lovely studio at the end of her garden. And when you start, you get like a little workbook to work through, and then when you're practicing your skills, you get to stick them in. Right, really excuse how I've stuck mine in, because I've just stuck it with like duct tape. But you know, you get to practice different seams. We got to use the overlocker, yeah, that binding. I mean, I just can't believe that I've done it. I'm just so pleased with myself, and it's just a lovely little group. There's only 6 of us, and we're all become really good friends. And the other week we were practicing putting in zips, so I did like an invisible zip. So it is there, or concealed zip, whatever you want to call it. As well as a normal zip. That looks a little bit messier, but I mean, I just can't believe that I'm learning these skills. Did some buttonholes. So anyway, this week, Wednesday, is week 5, where we get to make our cushion. And so I went to John Lewis at Christmas just because I was passing to look at the fabric. That was a minefield, a bit like walking in a wool shop and having no idea what wool to use. It's like, how do I know what material to get? But I bought this material. It's just 100% cotton, and I picked the blues and the greys because our living room and conservatory are those colours. And it's been cut out, ready to go. The material is double, so it's just ready to, I don't even know what we're going to do. Sew it and put a zip in, I presume. But yeah. And I'll show you that next time. That'll be another finished object. And then since then, I've signed myself up to the next course, which is the beginner's dressmaking course. And at the end of that 5 weeks, you make a little A-line skirt, which I can't wait. I've been so inspired lately by other podcasters and Instagrammers that have a bit of a sewing focus. I wrote some things down just to remember because I didn't want to forget people. So I have binge watched Gussets and Godets, the lovely Christina, who is beautiful. She's like Marilyn Monroe, real lovely vintage style she has. But she really explains and talks about her sewing patterns, things that she makes, and yeah, she has really inspired me just to, you know, have a me-made wardrobe. She does knit as well, so she makes lots of cardigans and jumpers and to go with dresses and things that she makes. So yeah, have a look at her if you're interested in the sewing side of things as well. Also Coco and Flora, I've also binge watched her podcasts, and she's a lovely Eva, and she knits and crochets but also sews, and she sells a lot of her sewing, so much so that I loved it. I went and bought something from Eva. I just could not resist this. This really reminded me of bedspreads that I would have had as a child. Me and my sister sort of had this. We were in the 70s. Perfectly, it's so soft. The cotton is lovely. The little zip as well. I've added a few, but she added this little progress keeper. But I just decided to make up another little notions pouch to carry in my projects with scissors and bits and bobs in there. But yeah, how cute is that? So that's Coco and Flora. Check her out, she's lovely. And also the lovely Lindsay from Stitch Create Love. She's a new podcaster like me, and she mentioned me in her podcast, and I had a flurry of people pop over and watch me. So thank you, Lindsay, for that. But I love watching Lindsay because she's also a sewer and she teaches sewing, and it's just teaching me about the different patterns out there, the different fabric companies. It's just like a whole new language, a bit like when I first started watching podcasts and I was learning about yarn and things like that. So it's really informative. And Lindsay is in the process of thinking of doing some extra things like some sew-alongs, but where she sort of, everyone maybe makes a pattern at the same time and sews along, and with lots of tutorials. So that's in the early stages, but I'm really looking forward to her. I hope she does something like that, because I really feel like even though I've done a course, I still need loads of practice and learning. But really another goal for this year, I'd love to make myself a wardrobe, not a wardrobe, but some outfits. So that's exciting. What else is going to show you? Oh, I've also recently bought some yarn, and I really wanted to support those dyers that were trying to raise money for the Australian bushfire. So the lovely Larissa from Travel Knitter, I love her yarn. She's originally from Australia. She was doing some yarn, in particular Australian colourways, to help raise money, and so I bought this one. It's Travel Knitter. I don't know, I should look this up, what that is. Maybe I'm Freycinet. It's a superwash merino and silk. She does some really lovely luxurious yarns, so looking forward to making something with that. When I bought it though, I bought it with some other yarn from her, but I thought it would match, but it doesn't. So I bought this. This is called Midnight Fireflies. In my head, when I was looking, I thought this would be the same colour as this flash of colour, but this is a bit more of a greeny colour, which is fine because I love green. And I'll just make this be something else. When I was saying about finishing this jumper and wanting to cast on another one, I just didn't know if I had enough yarn to make a jumper. I think all of this was 350 grams, but it's quite big, so I keep thinking, I wonder if I could get away with a 3 skein yarn jumper. So I was going through all my stash, because I have got lots of individual. I've got this lovely one from Madeleine Tosh. I've had this for years, but what I found in here last year, I did subscribe to Ysolde's Yarn Club, and last year every few months you would get yarn and a pattern, and the yarn is quite woolly yarn, which is what I really wanted to get into and have a use, rather than just indie dyed yarn. But I just couldn't. The patterns they came with, I was not really inspired to make them. So I've got all of this yarn and I don't really know what to do with it. But when I was getting all my yarns together, I was thinking, oh yeah, they look nice together. And then I was even thinking that blue, look, there's flashes of blue in there. So I was thinking of doing some kind of make it up as you go along, because I've obviously managed all right doing stripes, but doing, I don't know, I don't really know what to do, but I keep thinking, oh, I'm sure I can, they look nice together. Just, I almost want just like a simple, basic, like say, raglan shape jumper, and just use all my yarn up. When I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year, I bought a pattern from Ysolde, and it was this one. And I thought, oh yeah, that's lovely. You can see the sleeves are quite lacy. And I bought the yarn for that. But when I've looked at the pattern, I'm not feeling very confident knowing how to do it. It is made in pieces. Yeah, look how pretty that is, that sleeve. So the yarn I bought for that was this. It's Jameson's. So like in a natural. This is called Water Lily. It's sort of got quite a greeny tealy colour. But when I looked at these, they are only 25 grams. So even though I've got quite a few of them, I just don't know if that would be enough to make a jumper. It must have been enough, that's why I bought them for this, but yeah, I'm not sure what to do yet. So even in my head I was thinking, don't cast on another jumper, that's all I want to do. I really want to make another jumper. And then I was given some old knitting magazines, and I quite liked this pattern. Thought that was quite nice. There's lots of these big sleeves at the minute. I was going to tell you a funny story about that actually. When I, by mistake, I'd obviously made these sleeves a bit too big, I received an email from Bowden, and it looked almost like the jumper I've made, even with big sleeves. And I think I've seen quite a few patterns of these bishop, is it called bishop sleeve, where they're sort of big and then they come in at the cuff. I thought, oh, maybe I'm on trend for once. And I'm not an on-trend person. I'm not very fashionable at all. But this pattern actually is reminding me a little bit of Amy Loudon has got a new pattern coming out. There's a few people who are test knitting that, but it looks a bit like that. That looks lovely, so quite like the look of that. And then I also liked the look of this. That looked quite a nice detail on the sleeves. I quite like that cross bit, but quite a simple jumper pattern. But again, I think this jumper is made. Is it made in parts? Sleeves? Oh, I'm not sure. I need to look into it a bit more. But because it's such a big thing, isn't it? Making a jumper, and you want to make sure that you can do it. Right, I think that is it. I've been chatting for quite a while. I've chatted so much I've not even hardly drunk. Yes, I've talked about my sewing, my socks, my jumper, my shawl, my purchases and future plans. So I think by tonight I would have, like I said, I finished the jumper. I did this at the weekend. I finished my socks. I've only got the shawl on the needle, so I need to cast on some new things ready for the podcast in March. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. Hope it's been all right. Yeah, any comments or any questions, feel free to ask. And I will put in the description box below all of the details of everything that I've talked about, the dyers and the yarn colours and the patterns. So yeah, feel free to have a look down below for a bit more detail. I've loved today. It's been such a nice day, lovely sunny, nice to chat. I'm really proud of this jumper, despite all the little mistakes. Yeah, and then hopefully later on in the year I'll be able to do a bit more sewing and make some things. So yeah, hope you're all well. See you soon. Bye, loves.